And coming up, we'll go to our great friend, comedian Frank King. Before that, though, let's get to security guard Mike at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, security guard Mike. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, my pleasure, Kevin Miller. I'll wait for you anytime. You're awesome, and your show's great. And I just wanted to talk about the gun situation. I think that Donald Trump, and I don't want to sound like I'm just parroting a guy that I like so much in the White House, Donald Trump, but I want to say that I think his idea about getting rid of the bump stocks and the kids that can turn stuff into semi-automatic or fully automatic weapons is a good thing. Everyone says, oh, Donald Trump has he's not a politician. He's probably the best politician because he knows he's playing all sides. He's had so many people against him on no matter what he does, but he's trying as hard as he can to balance the issue. And so I think that if you want to have a fully automatic or semi-automatic weapon, you can have it at the gun range, like that place that you were talking about on the radio just a little bit ago. It should be locked up, and it'll have your name on it. You want to go fire it, you go fire it at the gun range. It'll be locked up under 24-hour security. That way nobody can get those guns, those fully automatic and semi-automatic. Now, if you want to have a handgun and a rifle and all that at your house, and locked up and safe and unloaded and all that good stuff, that is a great thing because that's the Second Amendment, and I believe everyone has the right to have a weapon. But I think that fully automatic and semi-automatic weapons are best left in the hands of the military, who hopefully, if their moms and dads taught them very well, the people that go into the military will not turn against their own people, which I hope is the case. Because I think that you go to the schools a lot, don't you, Kevin? You go to the schools a lot, and you see a lot of great kids that would not do anything that would harm another person. We just have those few people that are a little bit out there. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you, I think you're awesome. I just thank you for letting me have this opportunity to speak. I appreciate you very much. You have a wonderful day, and thank you for the people of Idaho. They're all great, and I love them all. And I love your show, and thank you once again. And I think you're awesome.
Well, we think you're awesome, security guard Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And to our great friend Frank King. Frank, hang on. We're going to get to you in 2 seconds. We appreciate your patience, Frank. We want to hear what you have to say. Comedian Frank King from Eugene, Oregon, coming up next. Cindy in Caldwell. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Cindy. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, not a problem, Kevin. Actually, I was praying for you on the way to work, as I was waking up to the beauty of the snow. But listen, I'm just hoping that you and Ray Amaya, I have never heard anyone articulate better, and believe it or not, it was Clyde Lewis on Ground Zero last night. Everything that I could never put into words about how the media, and I hope you can listen back and possibly get him on or play clips, as he was talking about with the media exploitation and how, and I never really thought of it that way, and you probably know the buzzwords, but how the media can emotionally propagandize from whatever side, just like what's recently happening in this more, what he spoke to last night in a psychological warfare on both sides. It was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I mean, I just learned so much. I mean, he repeated himself twice in both hours. But I'm sure hoping you and Rayamaya can listen and maybe edit and put something together tomorrow. Every congressperson, everyone out there should really just hear and see. I mean, I'm not going to go into what a Stringer does and what a Horror Miner does, but in being exploitive of the emotional tragedy out there, because Linda's right. A Jew will sit Shiva for 7 days and just grieve. You know, this is a time, and I just thought Clyde Lewis was brilliant last night in the way he presented what he did. And I'd also like to say, in living in Ocala, Florida, Marion County, sheriffs try to do their all, and you got to think out of the box. Over at the mall, right in Ocala, Florida, and I took the 3-month course, they use horses. The police are armed. The kids love the horses, but the police are armed. They use people on bicycles, which could be riding around schools. They're armed. It was a Christian police person that did the sow and seed. I did a ride along. The sheriff was right along with it. And, it's tragic that with the media and being over at Royal Labrador's call center yesterday and trying to put together this, the Second Amendment Coalition, which many people, were coming apart. It's also sad that not only does this sensationalist-driven political media use the people, that are grieving. But on the other hand, I talked to a rancher who had a 20 years he taught a hunter safety class. And to even make these people kind of feel guilty, well, maybe we should up, the age. Maybe we should do this and that. And tragically, when you make so people fearful of a gun, oh my goodness, who would ever go into the military? You're trying to make them not be fearful but respect what you're doing. I mean, a Washington Post article was saying, let's make it be 30 years old. This is insane. 17-year-olds were getting off the boats in Normandy to fight a war. We'd have no military. They'd all be afraid of the guns. So I'm just hoping, I can't edit that, but I just thought Clyde Lewis was brilliant last night in what he said articulately over and over again, on how unethical, and it's unethical that the media is using this psychological warfare, really, but propagandizing their point. So just to put that out there, that hopefully you might be able to look to yesterday's
Clyde Lewis show. Okay.
Brilliant, as you are, Kevin. Brilliant. And I'll let you go on from there. Stay safe, you and Jeremiah, on the way home.
Thank you, Cindy. God bless.
God bless you, too. Bye.
Bye-bye. My man, Frank King, thank you for your patience.
My pleasure.
Social commentator, comedian, man of the world, diplomat to the stars, and perhaps one day a rabid Oregon Ducks fan.
Yes. I lost to a duck puppet on Star Search, Kevin, so I have real difficulty pulling for anything duck.
Yeah. Speaking of which, now was that with Ed McMahon?
Yeah, back in the day when, the dangerous part of that show, Kevin, was by the second, record 2 shows a day. By the second show, Ed had at least a bottle of wine. He was like 6'6", so you're standing next to him hoping he won't collapse on you.
I mean, what was that like, though? And I'm sure you get this, but I mean, for a lot of us, that Star Search, obviously the precursor to American Idol and everything else, and such a quaint world we live in, and how good you were and are, but how good you had to be on that thing, because let's face it, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have 27 channels on cable, you had a syndicated Star Search show.
Yes, you didn't have people who could call in and weigh in and vote, and you only had, by the way, 2.5 minutes.
Wow.
To be funny.
Got to close the deal quick.
Yeah, you got to have a laugh every 7 to 9 seconds. That was the goal.
Indeed. How do we handle this situation that is so emotional, Frank?
Well, we stop blaming the mentally ill, I think, would be job one. Now, your listeners should know that I've got a dog in this hunt. I battle 2 mental illnesses, depression and chronic suicidality. They should also know that I own 2 guns. I've got a darling little Colt 380 pocket light loaded with Hydroshock hollow points that I carry. Matter of fact, I've got it on my hip right now because I was out walking the dogs, and I'm always worried about 2-legged, 4-legged predators. My wife has a nickel-plated Ruger 38. So I'm not an anti-gun nut. I'm a nut, Kevin, but not an anti-gun nut. I think people find great comfort in believing that the majority of these incidents are committed by people who are mentally ill, and the numbers just don't bear that out. Only 5% of gun deaths are attributable to people who are mentally ill, and only 1% of mass shootings are attributable to people who are mentally ill. And, some of those mentally ill people, the only victim in the gun death is themselves. They commit suicide, die by suicide. So I think it's an easy sort of out for a lot of politicians to go, well, what we really need to do is to beef up our mental health system. If that was the case, I don't think Congress last year would have passed one of the few pieces of legislation they passed last year, and Trump signed, was a bill allowing seriously mentally ill people to buy guns. People who have other people managing their money, they're allowing them to buy guns, and I don't think they would be against the Affordable Care Act, because for all its faults, and there are many in the Affordable Care Act, one thing it did was, and a lot of people don't know this, was create a parity between mental and physical health. Back in the day before the Affordable Care Act, if you had a heart attack, your insurance paid 80%, you paid 20%. If you had a, schizoaffective mental health crisis, you were entitled to 6 to 12 visits to a psychologist if you were lucky. The Affordable Care Act says mental health has to be treated the way physical health. If you have a heart attack, 80-20. If you have a mental health crisis breakdown, have to be hospitalized, 80-20. So if the Republicans were truly concerned about mental health services in this country, I think they would back off a little bit, at least on that part of Obamacare.
Frank King joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of the raw motion where you have these kids using their First Amendment right to take another look at the Second Amendment? Should we be looking at this already, Frank, or should we be taking a deep breath?
Well, you know, I just did it's called a Tercel talk. I drive around in my Tercel with the camera on, and I talk into the rearview mirror, essentially.
And God bless the Tercel. You know, an underappreciated vehicle. I'm still mad at Toyota for getting rid of our beloved Tercel.
199,000 miles and cooking. Yeah, you know, the Tercel talk I did yesterday was all about that because, you know, the Republicans, forgive me, everyone that I heard on the radio or television was thoughts and prayers. Now's not the time to talk about gun regulations. If you do, you're politicizing the issue. Of course, they do that because they get a good deal of money from the NRA. But being a fair person, I thought to myself, well, the Democrats must get some money from the NRA. So I went on the Google machine and I looked it up. And in the 2016 election cycle, of the 435 House members and the 100 senators, guess how many Democrats got a political contribution from the NRA?
How many?
One. Sanford Bishop of Georgia. So a lot of issues, both sides do it, but on this one, the numbers would suggest that, and you know, if we'd had a conversation after any of the first 6 mass shootings at a school this year, because we're averaging one a week, or you know, if we'd started the conversation then, I mean, probably would not have saved the 17 in Florida, but we could be well on our way to saving, you know, the next would-be victims.
Frank, finally, your thoughts on what we can do to try and avoid these issues, and the Reverend Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, being a North Carolinian, I was an admirer. I admired the fact that he evolved over time. If you watch his earlier preachings, there were some things that he came to realize were not godlike. So he actually evolved. I think what we should do is, in 1999 in Australia, there was a mass shooting. So what they did was they banned assault weapons. They did a huge buyback. Didn't confiscate anybody's gun, but bought back. And guess how many mass shootings Australia's had since 1999?
How many?
None. And the U.S. is averaging one a day. Last year there were 372 mass shootings, meaning 4 or more victims, 1 shooter. Australia hadn't had a mass shooting in, 19 years? So that's what I would do. I would ban assault weapons, bump stocks, universal background checks, close the gun show and internet loophole, and do a huge buyback so nobody feels like the government's taking their guns away. If you want to sell it back, great. If you want to keep it, great. Well,
I can't wait to hear the reactions from your take. Frank, people want to get a hold of you. What can they do?
I have a feeling your phone's going to ring. Email me, go to frank@frankking.com.
You ever get over here, you let us know, brother.
Hey, listen, if I do a gig there, I'd like to come in and be live in the studio.
Yes, and you can take all the calls that I'm getting now, Frank, so we'd love to have you.
Can I thank you for something, Kevin? Thank you for putting on an alternative view, because I have a feeling your listeners are going to take issue with me.
Yes, they are, but we'll spare you that, Frank, and God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Coming up next, Frank says ban the weapons. We'll get your calls. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Hank in Boise, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
I think the biggest disservice that's done in this is by all the focus on gun control, taking away guns to solve the problem, doesn't get around the solutions. The debate should be looking at various security measures. You take Israel, for instance. Their schools would be far more prone to have those type of mass shootings by Arab terrorists, and same way with their universities and public facilities. We should be looking and focusing our debate on security measures that our schools that are practical for our schools to take, rather than this emotive debate. It always ends up doing nothing goes to no solution, and we're back to where we started in zero base. This is what's frustrating about liberals. They're not only their ideas crackpot, but they're lazy thinkers.
Well, and we see the emotionalism running wild. Hank, thank you for the call. Let's go to Peyton, Young Conservatives of Idaho, on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Peyton.
Hey, Kevin. I just wanted to thank you for having that gentleman on, and we get to see all viewpoints. That's one of the great things about your radio show. But I do want to say a couple things. I wish I almost could talk to him in person. I'm sure we could talk for hours. But he said that 1% of mass shootings are done by mentally ill people. Those numbers are most likely taking, like, gang shootings in Chicago, all those into account. That's why they're happening every day. You don't think 100% of school shooters have been mentally ill? Because I guarantee you they have. And he said die by suicide. I think that those people that most of the time are committing mass suicides, no matter who they are, mass shootings, no matter who they are basically committing suicide by killing spree. That's what they're doing. They don't expect to live through it, and if they do, they want to be the most famous and most successful person, and that's disgusting. People shouldn't be thinking that way. The person who called in yesterday said it best. 50 years ago, people were bringing guns to school every day so they could go hunting after school, and there wasn't a single mass shooting. This is a new thing. This isn't something that we had in the past. So that's just one thing that I wanted to say this morning. But anyway, you have a great day, Kevin, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Peyton. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Time for traffic and weather. Let's go to Brett in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Not bad now that I'm in. Worried about everybody else getting in and getting out.
Yeah, I'm out in a rear-wheel drive car right now. It's not a lot of fun.
Oof.
Couple things about Mr. King. On the average, kids die from texting and driving 9 people a day. Are we going to ban phones from the kids now, too? Another thing, why is it that when a Muslim shoots people in a mass shooting, we're not allowed to blame all the Muslims, but if somebody kills somebody in a mass shooting, we are allowed to blame the NRA when the person has absolutely no affiliation with the NRA as far as we know. And then the last thing, he said something about 18 mass shootings or something this year already, and that is such a bogus number that it's just unbelievable they even are still trying to put that out. Some of those have been people that have driven into a school parking lot and shot themselves, and they classify that as a mass shooting. It's just ridiculous what they're trying to do with this. So he did have some good points about mental health, and I definitely think we need to look into that because that's the problem. Like your young man said just a few minutes ago, I used to take a gun to school every day when I was in high school. Not every day, but, quite frequently I had a gun in my gun rack, and we didn't have this kind of crap. It's just unbelievable that it's happening. And it's all a mental health issue, and it's a parenting issue. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Thank you, Brett. Well, no one's blaming this kid's parents. No one's blaming the killer, are they? Let's continue on taking your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Caldwell and speak with Harry. Harry, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Harry.
Hi, good morning, Kevin. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to mention a few things on this issue. Starting with California, my wife and I like to say we're refugees from California. We escaped from there 4 years ago now, and both of us public school teachers. And my experience was living in Los Angeles, and I wasn't in a really bad part of Los Angeles. I was in a suburb outside of Los Angeles, but they had put in, when I was a kid, they put in apartments along a street about 2 blocks from my house, low-income housing, and then started busing in schools. And it wasn't very long after that, when we left there was helicopters circling our house at least once to 3 times a week. You'd hear the guns go off, and then the helicopters would start very low to the ground. The spotlight would shine in our bedroom window. I mean, it literally would stress you out to live in that. And they have pretty strict gun control laws in California. So I just want to point out what happens when we start going down that route. It took me 4 years to get out of that environment. I had to save and plan and work very hard to get away from it. Also, my first teaching job, I was in a school. It was it wasn't a continuation school. It was a non-public school it was your last ditch effort to help kids before they go to, kids were in and out of juvenile hall, had a lot of problems there, a lot of gang, presence in the school. And interestingly, we were not allowed to have metal detectors because we wanted a therapeutic environment. So I'm just trying to share with you the logic in people that are in education. We had to do hand search, physical search. You had to, every time the kids got off their bus, arriving usually from their group homes, we would search them, but we couldn't have metal detectors. And there were many occasions, knives were a greater threat than guns. I had one time a student grabbed a envelope opener and went running out of the office saying who he was going to kill with it. We had to take him down. Another kid came to school with a knife. It was about somewhere between 8 and 12 inches long, big old butcher knife. Nobody knew because we can't search them before they get into the van to get to the school. Jumps out of the van and running with this knife saying who he's going to stab with it. No metal detectors. As far as I know to this day, they still don't have them. And the last couple things I want to mention is one, somebody mentioned earlier the frustration with the liberals. I want to voice frustration with the conservatives. Why is it that the liberals are so well funded and so well organized that they're out there rallying right now with these emotional pleas to take our rights away and our freedoms away? And no conservatives are out there saying, why don't we have armed guards in the schools? Why don't we have actual effective measures? I'm here in Idaho. I work in public schools, and you'd be surprised to hear the stuff that teachers say. It's ridiculous. We're not doing anything to protect kids. We're putting them at huge risk. Even our measures, our security measures, our evacuation measures and things like that are really just to cover the school from liability and really doesn't do anything for the safety of the children. If we had, like some states I understand do, armed guards that nobody knows who they are, only the administration, they're trained and they are a liaison to the local police department, the mental health issue, that's kind of a tricky one, but it is definitely a concern. But how do we define mental health? And finally, I just want to again say, if our conservatives were more unified, one of my biggest frustrations is most of my conservative friends go to the same kinds of churches that I go to, and yet we've all bought into this idea of a separation of church and state. Nobody wants to talk about politics or anything that actually means anything. We just want to be theologically correct. We talk about political correctness. Well, we got a lot of theological correctness, and the majority of people that would support conservative causes are not doing that with their money. They're not putting their money where their mouth is. I think we need more talk in our churches on these issues that affect Americans like our founders did, who were majority of Christians. So, I'm frustrated with conservatives that aren't funded, aren't rallying. This is clearly a political move by the left, the George Soros-funded left, that they immediately get on the bandwagon and go do something, and none of us are doing that. So that's the real problem. Why aren't we out there making noise in Washington?
Harry, thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Jim and Tom, hang on. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
All right, coming up, Jim, who is stuck in traffic, Tom in Boise. But first, we go live to CPAC. Our friend Nick Henderson joining us, candidate for Congress, live from Washington, D.C. Nick, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. How are you doing? It sounds like things are cold back there.
Cold, wet, and snowy. So you're at CPAC. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, sir.
Yeah, so CPAC kind of kicked off last night with a great gathering of conservatives out here, and we started out with activism workshops, learning how to organize grassroots, and some real great tips for the campaign. And today is just wall-to-wall keynote speakers. We just heard from a panel on how the media and the far left got into bed together and then their collusion to spread fake news. And coming up, we've got Vice President Mike Pence will be speaking here.
What does this mean for you, and how does this help your campaign?
Well, I attended CPAC last year, and as an attendant, it was just as a conservative, someone who was really rooted in conservatism, and it was a great place for me to kind of get energized in being part of the process. As a candidate this year, attending CPAC for me is very different. Where I'm looking for is strategies, new techniques to push the campaign into more homes back in Idaho. And of course, I'm going to be trying to make some connections here with media and power players that are going to be able to help me spread the message of my campaign in a way that will reach as many people in Idaho homes as possible. So I had a chance to meet with Ben Shapiro last night. I just finished a conversation with Dr. Sebastian Gorka and had a chat very briefly with Sean Hannity last night.
Our old friend Sean Hannity. He's always doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a live taping of the show last night here at CPAC, and he's going to be here, I guess, throughout the week and covering the things that are going on at the convention.
Man, I wish I would have known. We would have had you say hello. I've known Sean since '95. So let's go back to what else are you thinking about as far as the campaign goes?
Well, we had a great result, a great turnout at the candidate forum up in Coeur d'Alene a couple of weeks ago, and then we polled really well after that. So it looks like people are really starting to hear my message, and they're starting to identify with me as the outsider candidate, not the career politician, not the lawyer, beholden to no company, beholden to no party. I think they're really tired of those career entrenched politicians. So we saw real good results and turnout from that. We polled really well coming out of that. We had a lot of people come up after that forum saying, hey, I had no idea who you were, but you have flipped my vote. I am on your team now. How do I work with your campaign? We've had emails coming in, lots of people wanting to volunteer. So we're really starting to see some momentum come out of these events that we're doing in Idaho.
Well, Nick, we appreciate you phoning in from CPAC. You keep your powder dry.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nick Henderson, candidate for Congress. Back to your calls. Let's go to Tom in Boise. Tom, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, good morning. By the way, the drive out there is pretty bad. I don't even see a standing truck or a snow plow in sight, and cars are kind of sliding off the road everywhere here in Boise. Anyway, I was going to talk about that previous caller. I believe it was Frank, and he said he wanted to see a ban on assault rifles and so forth. And I'm a firearms instructor, and I have those scary-looking guns. And I've got a proposition for him. I would agree with that. I would agree to his proposition, but he doesn't get anything for free. I want a constitutional amendment that cannot be revoked for getting rid of abortion. So if we're going to save lives, let's save babies as well. And so nobody gets anything for free. It's amazing how many babies are killed every year in the United States, and then we have this tragedy with students and so forth, but nobody talks, everybody's focusing on that and how scary guns are, but they're not focusing on the other deaths in the United States. And the kids that are texting, texting while driving, they're weapons too. And a law doesn't stop them from texting while driving, so what do they think a law is going to stop people from using firearms the wrong way? And that's my perspective. Appreciate your show.
Thank you, Tom. Take care. Bye-bye. Let's go to Barb in Sunny Slope with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Barb.
Hi there. I was just going to point out, although Tom took some of it when here, I was doing research as I'm on the phone here, that in 2016, there were 5 times as many people killed by knives as there were rifles. So we need now to ban guns, obviously. So then I looked at abortions. I was going to look up, not knowing how long I had to wait, I was going to look up cars and abortions and all the other methods here. But I don't have the numbers for 2016, but I do have the numbers in front of me for 2013, which were 664,435 abortions in the United States in 2013. Let's just assume they did not go up in 2016. Why are we concerned about guns? It's heartbreaking to lose 17 kids and however many we lost in Kentucky. And no, we really didn't have 18 shootings this year. I should have sent that to you. I will. But I'm really concerned about the uproar on the guns on this. I'm very concerned that the conservatives are not rallying together, but they get the students rallying together. We're going to have this in Boise also if we haven't yet, because I know of a mother who was called to ask if her son could go to a rally in Boise about guns.
Well, that's the whole thing. They're going to have a big rally. They want the kids to miss school, and we're going to see how that plays out too.
Yeah, this is so out of control. My thought is, I tell you what, why don't we move all the anti-gun people to California and Chicago and leave the rest of the country for us? How's that?
Indeed.
I just, I don't have to have the same color houses you have. I don't have to have the same kind of cars. So as long as they want to have their own same kind of rules, move them to California where guns are not allowed, or Chicago, and let me know if they also feel safer. I'm just curious, But stay off of my Second Amendment. I really object to that, and I object actually to Trump giving in on any of this, including the bump stocks. Not because I'm pro bump stocks. I am not. It's that it's just an inroad to the infringement of the Second Amendment. What I also found interesting that I came across is that there was a book written back in 1991 by a man named Cooper, William Cooper. Have you heard of him?
No.
Oh, I have got to get that to you. Anyway, he is somebody who is no longer alive because, frankly, he was working for the government, and he had access to a lot of intelligence or private stuff. And obviously, he is now dead. He was not from old age, by the way. And one of the things he wrote was that, and he was with the military and the government, and one of the things he wrote is they plan on, back in 1991, I just want to reemphasize that, they plan on bringing more guns into the U.S., military kind, and getting them out, and they're hoping for school shootings so they can cause an uproar in the people in the United States to go for gun control. That's 1991. I will send that to you.
All right, Barb, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436.
I want to bring in Cameron Kasky. He's a junior, and he has a question for Senator Rubio. Cameron?
Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm not gonna listen to that. Senator Rubio, it's hard to look at you and not look down the barrel of an AR-15 and not look at Nicholas Cruz. But the point is, you're here, and there are some people who are not. And I need to ask two things of you. Number one, Chris Grady, can you stand up? This is my friend who's going to the military. I need you to tell him that he's going to live to make it to serve our country. And then we'll get to the other one.
Not only are you going to live to serve our country, you and all of you have a chance to change our country. Change not just our laws, but the way we talk about our laws. So absolutely.
Thank you. And guys, look, this isn't about red and blue. We can't boo people because they're Democrats and boo people because they're Republicans. Anyone who's willing to show change, no matter where they're from, anybody who's willing to start to make a difference is somebody we need on our side here. And this is about people who are for making a difference to save us and people who are against it and prefer money. So, Senator Rubio, can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future?
Your reaction next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Dana Loesch, I want you to know that we will support your two children in the way that you will not. The shooter at our school obtained weapons that he used on us legally. Do you believe that it should be harder to obtain these semi-automatic and weapons and the modifications for these weapons to make them fully automatic like bump stocks?
Well, it's interesting, and having known Dana Loesch for years, a very smart woman, very family-oriented, very pro-Second Amendment. Obviously, she works for the NRA. But, just the inflammatory nature of these questions. Are these kids really doing themselves a favor? Are they really trying? And I'm sorry, let me apologize in advance. Are they really trying to do anything here? Because to me, it seems very tilted. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this out. We're going to protect your children in a way that you're not. Dana Loesch is a well-respected young lady, professional. This young person's not even graduated high school. And then comparing the killer to Senator Marco Rubio. And these kids are coming up with these ideas on their own. By the way, good morning, Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Blair.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Hey, you keep asking the question about where were the parents of this Cruz kid. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of background. It was kind of hard to find. Apparently, he was adopted. He and his brother were adopted when very young. And then the father passed away about 10 years ago, and so he's been raised by a single mom for most of his adult life. He's had emotional issues. He's had other things going on, and then the mom passed away about a year ago. And for the past year, he's had family friends trying to take care of him. They gave him his own room. They tried to help him get into community college because he was expelled for behavioral issues from the high school that he went back and targeted. So just thought I'd give you a little bit of that background.
All right. Thank you very much. The kid was expelled from schools. Somebody should have stepped up, but we're too busy banning guns. Let's go to Don in Meridian with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Don.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing today?
You know, hopefully trying to get you all safely to work.
Yeah, I can see that. So I'm hearing everybody talk about assault weapons, and my definition might be a little different than some, I guess. The only assault weapons I know of are guns that are used in assaults. Other than that, there's no such thing as an assault weapon until it's used in an assault. So, if we want to ban all assault weapons, I am all for that. We just got to figure out which guns are going to be used in assaults and which guns are not used in assaults. We don't have assault weapons that are assault knives, assault cars, but we have assault weapons. And so it's just a misnomer. The AR-15, the letters AR do not stand for assault rifle. Contrary to most liberal belief, it does not stand for that at all. And we've perfected these weapons in the military for hundreds of years. The AR-15 is similar to the style of a military weapon, but it's not a military weapon. I don't know a single Marine that would carry an AR-15 into battle. It's not an efficient weapon for battle because it doesn't have the right caliber, it doesn't have the right power, and it isn't a fully automatic weapon. We want something that our soldiers can use to defend themselves, and an AR-15 is not that weapon. However, it looks like a military weapon, so I guess that makes it scary. It looks like a military weapon because for hundreds of years, the military has perfected what makes a weapon comfortable to fire, accurate to fire, and do the job that a weapon is supposed to do. And if you're going to take it hunting or target shooting or whatever, it's going to look like a military weapon because that's a weapon that fires accurately and is comfortable to use. If anybody's ever fired an AR-15 or any weapon like it, they're much more kind to your ear. They're not as loud as they used to be. It's a very efficient gun, and that's what you would buy a gun for. If you're going to go out and kill a bunch of people, there's a variety of ways to do that. And if we can cure anger in this country, we might get rid of assaults. But getting rid of the guns is not going to get rid of the assaults.
Well, we appreciate the call, Don. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, traffic and weather together. Okay, much more of your calls next, and hopefully we'll have our friend Russ Fulcher in as we continue to roll on, taking your calls and getting your reaction and hearing what you have to say. That's what we do here each and every morning, hearing from you with me, Kevin Miller, on KIDO Talk Radio. Remember, you can always catch us if you miss any part of the program at KIDOTalkRadio.com and the KIDO Talk Radio app. Don't go anywhere without it. Easy to download. Fox News next on your home for Fox News on the radio here in the Treasure Valley, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.